All right, Locked On listeners, for the first time ever, we got a crossover with not one, but two guests because they are both the guests of the Locked On Astros pod. I don't know how you guys want to do it, but someone say what's up and then someone else say what's up so the listeners know who you are. And please say your name too, just so the listeners know.
All right, my name's Eric Heisman. You can find me on the Locked On Astros podcast. And Brett, where can you find you at?
They can find me at H-Town Wheelhouse. I go by Brett Chansey, but they call me H-Town Wheelhouse on the Twitters. You can find me there on Twitter and Instagram. And I'm the co-host. Eric Heisman, the one that was first speaking, as our main host. I'm the co-host, and we make a great team as the first place Houston Astros Locked On show.
Yeah, you guys absolutely kill it. If you guys haven't seen Locked On Astros, go check it out. They are absolutely killing it on YouTube. Hopefully the D-backs get on there soon. I know you guys be doing a lot of live video streams as well, so that's probably pretty fun and engaging for the fans. But on today's pod, we're going to talk a little D-backs versus Astros. And we just saw these two teams wrap up play. Of course, the Astros won. Big whoop. You beat the arguably worst team in baseball, the Arizona Diamondbacks. And I just want to know, as Astros Locked On host, how does it feel right now at this point in the season, a dozen games left? What's your confidence level with your team as we're moving into the postseason? And Eric, I'll start with you.
Well, I think that the biggest question mark still relies on the bullpen. I think that the Astros went out and made some trade deadline acquisitions. They improved the bullpen, but we still see a couple of the Yimi Garcia is one of them. I know you've seen him a lot in the in the National League, but he's shown some weaknesses, and especially in this series, I think the D-backs won their one game versus Garcia in the Saturday game. And so I know Zack Greinke, you want to talk about that a little bit later. He's not the same Zack Greinke he's shown with the Astros, with the D-backs, with the Dodgers. He's kind of regressing a little bit. And a lot of talk around Houston is he going to be on the playoff roster? Yes, he's going to be on the playoff roster. They're paying him to be on the playoff roster, and he's Zack freaking Greinke. You're not going to take him out of the rotation. And this guy usually shines in those type of rotations. But I'm pretty confident that the Astros will go deep into the playoffs. Now, do they have enough to beat whoever comes out in the National League? That's up in the air, whether it be the Dodgers or whoever. I'm not sure. It's not going to be Diamondbacks. That's all I know.
Yeah. And so I think from my perspective, the big question mark, like Eric said, is going to be who's going to be that 26th man, because if we assume that Phil Maton makes this roster, it's going to be between Yimi Garcia, Peter Solomon, Josh James, and Andre Scrub. And I think Peter Solomon could sneak himself into the picture with outings like he had against the Diamondbacks, going 3 solid innings. He is starter material, and he has very good stuff. And so that's the question. Who's going to take that 26 spot? I just think there's some guys that are on the outside looking in. Greinke, I think the question for the Astros going in is Lance McCullers the game one starter, or is Zack Greinke? I know everybody that you talk to, that I've talked to, and I've been in conversations today with people who have scouted these players, and they basically said, of course, you give McCullers the ball, but seniority is probably going to reign. I mean, Odorizzi will probably get a start simply because he's got more years over Luis Garcia and some of these other guys. And I know Eric's sitting there frowning at me, but
That's not a frown.
Okay. Well, I took a deep dive into this with someone who does scouting and stuff, and they said they would be surprised if Odorizzi is not one of the starters because of his seniority, because of the way they're paying him. And so he may have a short leash, but you could easily piggyback someone like, if they could give Urquidy the start and then Odorizzi, they give Odorizzi start, but Urquidy's kind of earned. Urquidy has one of the best performances, like one of the top 5, I believe, ERAs and some other stats that really makes him kind of a dark horse candidate to become a starter in the playoffs. But the relief pitching is really the big question mark, because I don't know if you saw this week at Millard, we got some young guns. We got some young studs that love to hit home runs, and they've got swag, and those guys are going to contribute too in a big way.
Yeah, you guys got some swag, you got some bombers for sure. I mean, it was still a pretty close series. You had that extra innings win Saturday night, Sunday. I thought D-backs were pulling out that game Sunday, but you got some clutch offense late in that one. Of course, D-backs bullpen isn't very good either, but when you still look at this Astros team up and down the roster, I mean, you guys are definitely loaded in that lineup. The rotation, I probably don't like it as much as years past because of guys like Garrett Cole's not there anymore. Of course, Verlander's not in that rotation anymore, but still, you look at the production, at least in terms of ERA, from McCullers, Garcia, Urquidy. I know he's been hurt a lot this year, but still he has a pretty good ERA too. So even after Greinke, it seems like there's still pretty solid depth in that rotation. But how have the Astros still been able to maintain this best run differential in baseball despite guys like Garrett Cole and George Springer no longer there?
The offense is number 2 in baseball in scoring runs. They don't hit the home runs quite as much as they used to, but they know how to get on base. They know how to get to clutch hits, and they lead the league, or like they're up in the top in double plays. But the reason why is because they get on base a lot. I know they're second in the league in OPS to the Blue Jays, but they get on base a lot. And I know it's a little bit deceiving, but the starting rotation is actually up there in terms of performance. They have a lot of quality starts. They do have a lot. Their ERA is up there as well. The bullpen is kind of what's been bringing them down, but they've improved that a little bit. So this is it may be a little bit smoke and mirrors in terms of they don't have the ace, so to speak. But Lance McCullers I know he's had his what the heck is going on type of games, but he can go out and shut you down. And he's done it in playoffs before. Just asked 27 straight for the Dodgers.
Yeah, exactly. And when you boast a lineup where everybody in the lineup except for 3 hitters has an OPS of over 800. Everybody except for 3 batters. And I mean, gosh, Jose Siri, of course, this guy just came up. It's a small sample size. He's got a 1.40 OPS. I mean, like Eric said, they're coming on. Alex Bregman coming back and performing strong. Carlos Correa right now playing out of his mind. He actually is worth 31% of the wins. Basically saving them runs. He saved 31 runs on his own. Was it called DAR or whatever? The runs. You know what I'm talking about? There's a baseball metric that talks about runs basically per game that
run saved.
Runs saved. Like DSR or something like that. And he's got 31% of those this year. So he is showing every bit of what he's worth to this club and what they should be paying him. And the young guys have come up. When we've had our COVID scares, when Alex Bregman was out, Aledmys Diaz was leading the league and getting hits with runners in scoring position. Yuli Gurriel has been hitting well this year. Yordan Alvarez, 30 bombs this year. I mean, Kyle Tucker is becoming the offensive MVP that I said he was going to be at the beginning of the year. I know Eric's always been high on Kyle Tucker. We've never wavered from Kyle Tucker.
And we didn't have to trade him to get Zack Greinke.
That's right. You guys wanted Kyle Tucker, and thank God that y'all didn't take him from us. But yeah, so it's a complete team from top to bottom. I mean, you have one guy that hits a 500 OPS. That's our catcher, Martin Maldonado. All the other guys can cover that up.
But he's a good catcher.
He's a very good catcher.
I think that's probably the narrative that we don't talk enough about with the Astros. We used to talk about it back when they brought up Altuve and George Springer, how the Astros were able to build this team from scratch and organically. I think part of that narrative has kind of got lost over the years with how much they've been winning in all the World Series. But you look at this team, like you said, Yordan Alvarez and Kyle Tucker are both 24 years old, and they seem like absolute studs in this lineup. And that's kind of where a team like the D-backs have kind of struggled. And it's been developing your homegrown guys and getting them to the major league level and hoping that they actually reach their expectations and ceilings. So when you look at the Astros, like, is it something from a culture standpoint? Is it they just have great minor league coaching? Like, is there anything you can point to for how this Astros team has been able to repeatedly produce these 30 home run guys and 800 OPS guys year after year?
Do Dodgers fans watch your show? I just want to know. But anyway, so I think a lot of people talk about the experts, the prospect experts. They would say, well, the Astros have not had any of these top top prospects. So you would look at Alvarez, he was the last top prospect. And outside of that, Chas McCormick, he was not a top prospect. A lot of people would say Jose Siri, he was a top prospect. Jake Myers, but you saw firsthand what these guys have done this weekend. And the Astros, they traded a lot of top prospects over the years to get the players they needed, but they held on to the ones that they thought they would help them down the road to increase their depth. So what the Astros have done is, yes, they've traded away players, but they kept the players that they needed down the road.
Yeah, and the guy I spoke with today who does a lot of minor league stuff, him and I were talking, and he's going to send me a copy of an article he wrote about Chas McCormick and Jake Myers both being a part of this roster in 2021. He said, I saw it from a long ways away. And he said where everybody didn't even have them on their radar. And then you also, with our pitching development, you have Bill Murphy on the staff. Bill Murphy was with this team with a lot of guys in the lower divisions, has been brought up. You have Bill Murphy alongside of Josh Miller and Brent Strom. And I believe those three are the guys that are making the headway. I think those are the three making the calls on the pitching end, not Baker. But the development, when I've interviewed these players, when I've interviewed Jake Myers, when I interviewed even Josh Rojas, who's on your team now, when he was, I actually interviewed him a few weeks before he was traded. And he talked about the focus, the information they give you, how they break it down, how they help you. And every minor leaguer I've talked to in our system has had rave reviews about the kind of instruction they have. And it is a culture thing, Millard. Right. And it is something that a lot of people are like, oh, the championship window's closed. Springer's gone. Cole's gone. JV's out. No, this team's deeper. I would go on to say that we have a good 4 to 5 years where we will be contenders in the American League, easily top 4 for the next 4 to 5 years. I'm very confident in that.
And one thing I like you said, Eric, is when you guys did have that deep farm system, you weren't afraid to package a few of those players together and go after the big name fish that you might want. And you still were able to keep the dudes in your farm system that you might have liked more than other teams, despite what the MLB top prospect scouting reports might have said. You want to keep the players you guys trust in, that you guys scouted yourselves. And I think that's the kind of philosophy that I wish the D-backs probably took more account for, because I don't like stockpiling the farm system just to stockpile. If you're going to stockpile the farm system, then do it to acquire enough assets to go out there and acquire a real major league player, because I'm about the tangible assets. A lot of these prospects are just make-believe. They're gambles, basically. They're darts at the dartboard. I would rather just go get me an established player if I can by giving up a few of my prospects. And that's what the Astros kind of did with that Zack Greinke trade. And that's where I kind of want to move to next, because when I look at that deal on paper, it's about as good of a deal you could get for any star in Major League Baseball. 3 of your top 5 prospects, according to whoever farm system rankings you looked at, I think it was MLB.com. They said the D-backs got back 3 of the top 5 prospects in the Astros organization, plus a Josh Rojas, who's like number 22. So the Astros are giving up 4 prospects, 3 of their top 5, but still, when you look at the 2 teams, Greinke has probably helped out a lot more to the Astros than those 4 players have helped out to the D-backs. So I guess my question is, would you do that deal again? Is that the kind of deals you would rather go for, is just packaging those players for a bigger name fish instead of trying to hope that all these prospects one day just magically live up to their ceiling?
Remind me of the players again. It was
Seth
Beer. It was
Seth Beer, JB Berskakis, Corbin Martin, and Josh Rojas.
Corbin Martin was the guy I was having. I always get him and Patrick Corbin confused. I didn't want to say the name wrong. But yeah, I know Corbin Martin. I almost did it again. But Corbin Martin was coming off the Tommy John or some type of surgery, if I remember correctly, and he was kind of a guy that the Astros really were high on. But he was going to be out the entire year. JB Berskakis was somebody the Astros were high on. And I know Joshua Rojas was a guy who was kind of like the Chas McCormick rising up. And I know that he was somebody who Astros fans had a lot of excitement about. And Seth Beer was a DH, somebody who a lot of people saw as a DH. And a lot of people I knew, they didn't really see him as an impact bat long term, especially with the wood bats. So, yeah, the Astros traded a lot to get Zack Greinke. But as we saw, he did help the Astros into playoffs. I know that What we saw Dusty Baker kind of give him that confidence in that one game where he let him go deep in the game. And we know that the Astros, especially under Dusty Baker's leadership, do not like to let pitchers go deep into games, especially even Greinke said, like, I'll come back and pitch as many innings as they let me. They don't seem to let pitchers go that deep in games. But I think you got to give up players to get something. And Greinke, yes, he's quirky. Yes, he's got his little things. And I know that, I don't know if you saw this, but the team did a dress like Zack Greinke day.
I think I heard about that.
Flying out to Anaheim, and that's just how much this team respects and admires him. Even after a day where he only lasts 4 innings and gives up, 5 runs versus Diamondbacks, this team still goes out there and shows the respect to him. So would I do that trade again? Yes, that was a last-minute trade. I think that they had to do something. They are desperate at that time because of injuries, and so you're going to have to trade that. The one player, I think the Astros, I don't know what he's done so far. I know what Rojas has done, but I don't know what Corbin Martin has done. But I think that's the guy we're going to regret trading.
Yeah, I think with the Astros, like Eric said, you do that trade every time. Zack Greinke was literally pulled from a game where Cole did not replace him, and that was Game 7 of the 2019 World Series, one of the most painful memories in Astros history. And when Greinke said this last year in the playoffs, I finally feel like the first time in Houston that they trust me is huge because of who he is and his personality. I'll tell you something interesting. We had Lance McCullers Jr. on the show before the season, and I asked LMJ, I said, tell us an interesting Zack Greinke story. And he said he was working on his 4-seam fastball, and he couldn't get it. Like, he couldn't place it. It was all over the place. So he went to Greinke. He said, "Hey, Zach, I'm having a hard time throwing my 4-seam. What advice do you have for me?" And he just looked at me and said, "Don't throw it." He goes, "What do you mean don't throw it?" He goes, "It's your worst pitch. Don't throw it." He said, "So I don't throw the 4-seam anymore." He was dead serious. But he is that guy where some people may think he's peculiar and strange because he's not like your outgoing person like you and I are sitting there. We could probably make friends with the Rock. We could talk to anybody, but it's his presence. It's his leadership. It's the respect that the other players have for him. And that's what a veteran ball player brings. Like you said, unlike these prospects, because it is very much shooting in the dark, and you hope you hit something.
Ask John Singleton.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we got John Singleton. We had all these hopes for him.
We extended him.
Phillies. Yeah, we extended him like 10 years.
He extended. Yeah. They offered him. Was it really that long? But
it was like 10
before
years.
He played one Major League Baseball game. Astros offered him extension, and I think they're still paying that dude.
Yeah,
and
so, yeah, he's still got a couple more left. It was the minor league version of the Bobby Bonilla contract. But yeah, so Zach, I love having him on the team. Now you talk to certain Astros fans now, they're like, "Oh, Zach shouldn't make the roster," and I'm like, y'all are like micro focusing on this is a Hall of Fame pitcher. This is one of the best pitchers of our generation, and I love the fact that he's on this team even when he struggles.
Yeah.
But, hey, y'all missed out a good opportunity. Y'all should have had Seth Beer be Beer 30.
Yes. Why is he Beer 28? That is a failure on the Diamondbacks marketing department because nobody says it's Beer 28. But here in Texas, it's always Beer 30.
You got the Marte Parte out of the
marketing
department last year. So that's okay. About the best we can do. But yeah, when I look back at that Greinke trade, I mean, the D-backs kind of had to because they weren't going to pay him, and the D-backs weren't in a position to win at the time, even though a year later it seemed like they were going to be all in the next offseason. But the dudes that we got back, you say you don't know how Corbin Martin is doing. Well, he was pitching to a 10.69 ERA. He was getting absolutely crushed. I'm trying to find
he's still trying to recover. I'm not going to judge him yet.
Yeah, he's still trying to recover. He gave up 5 home runs in 16 innings pitched. It just wasn't good for him. But JB Briscockis also getting crushed. He gave up 15 earned runs in 17 innings pitched. So those two guys didn't look too good. Seth Beer finally made his major league debut last week with the team.
We saw that.
Yep. In his first time playing defense, he dislocated his shoulder. So
Are
he's
you?
That's why we said he was going to be a DH.
Yep. No. When I had Zach
Yeah,
Buchanan,
I had Seth on
wasn't
my
his
podcast, and so yeah.
Wasn't he first on? Wasn't his first hit a home run? His first major league at bat?
No, he crushed it from the plate because he played. He was basically a pinch hitter the first couple games he came in with the D-backs, and he was crushing it at the plate. But the first time he had to start a game and play defense, he dislocates his shoulder trying to play defense at first. And Zach Buchanan had him on the pod before the season, and he said, "We might not see Beer until they bring the universal DH back to the National League because that's how bad he is at defense." But I do think he has a bat that could keep him in the major league lineup. The dude has absolutely crushed major league pitching so far throughout his career. So I do want to see what he could be next year. Corbin Martin, JB Briscockis, I'm still holding out hope for them. And right now, I would have to say Josh Rojas is probably my favorite player out of the group. I think he has the most swag. I don't know if he has a super high ceiling, but I think he can be an everyday Major League Baseball player. And when you look at those four guys, was there any of them that you really didn't believe in? Were any of them where you're like, hey, I'm kind of happy that guy is being traded because I feel like the player we're getting back is a lot better than the dude we're sending out? I didn't believe in his ceiling or expectation level. Is that just Seth Beer because of his defense, or is there another guy?
I think the answer would have to be Seth Beer. I think a lot of people overhyped him. I know somebody, a scout I talked to a lot. I don't really associate with him a lot anymore, but he was very negative towards Seth Beer, and so he kind of soured me on him. But it just was a situation where he probably was not going to have a place in Houston, and so we'll see. He's probably going to be part of a package, or he's probably going to have to be traded because I like the guy, but he just can't play defense.
I think the one that I hated to see go the most was Josh Rojas because, like I said, whenever you interview a guy and you just get a good vibe from him, you know about his work ethic, you get to know him personally, like you talk about where he came from and how he got there. And I remember I actually interviewed him after he made his first big league start. That was a big thing for him. He just said it was surreal. And he's going to scrap. He's going to play wherever you put him, and he's going to do his best. He's going to make adjustments. He talked about when he went to Corpus, his average dropped like 80 points. He wasn't hitting for power. He didn't know that down at Whataburger Field in Corpus that's not a home run hitting park. So he was trying to hit everything to the field he would normally hit it to. And so he was missing out on a lot of stuff. And he said Josh Reddick had come down for a rehab assignment and told him, you're doing too much. Just put the ball between the lines. Like if you got to hit it opposite field for a single, do that. And he said his average jumped because he got outside of himself and he stopped doing what he was good at, making contact. And then naturally the power came back. And so he's a student of the game. And so I really hope he has all the success in the world. He's a great kid, comes from a great family too.
That's funny because I have to look at the numbers, but I feel like Josh Rojas had his hottest streak of the season at the same time Josh Reddick was on the team for 3 weeks. So it's kind of funny that you bring that up, that he coached him up a little bit in the minor leagues and gave him some good tips.
He's got a bond with them. He spoke very highly of Reddick, very highly.
Yeah, it was nice to see Reddick have a nice little cup of coffee with the D-backs earlier this season. He really helped out the young guys, I'm sure. But I just want to change the conversation a little bit as we start to wrap up pretty soon here on the crossover, the Locked On Diamondbacks versus Astros crossover. And I just want to ask you, when looking at that AL wildcard race, who do you think will get those final two spots? It seems like I think the Red Sox and the Blue Jays are in the lead right now of the standings here. Red Sox, as we're recording this, 6:30 p.m. on Monday, Red Sox game lead over the Blue Jays for the first wild card spot. Yankees a game and a half back with the A's at 2 back, and we could still throw the Mariners in there at 4 back. So when looking at the AL wildcard race, Eric, who are you leaning with? Who are you leaning toward to get that to get the first two spots in the wild card race?
I think where you see them is where they're going to finish, unless the Yankees somehow find a way to win. I just don't think that they're consistent enough. And I mean, yes, they had that winning streak, but I think they peaked too soon, and they should have saved the winning streak for a little bit later. But the problem is when you have a winning streak like that, you're not going to be able to maintain that. And when your whole season rests on that one winning streak to save it, you just can't keep that momentum going. And in the last 10 games, they're 5-5. And the other teams are 7-3, 7-3, and 7-3. Even the A's are 7-3 in their last 10 games. So the other teams are playing well. I just don't see the Yankees being able to maintain this. And I could be wrong. They could go on this win streak. I think there's no more than 12 games left. So, I mean, there's only a 1.5 game difference. So anything can happen. So but I think the Blue Jays are good enough. The Red Sox are good enough. I see the Yankees staying home.
Yeah, here's a problem. After the Yankees get out of playing the Rangers in New York, they go to Boston for 3 games. They go to Toronto for 3 games. Then they play Tampa at home, and that's their end of their season. I mean, I just believe. Yeah, I just don't see the Yankees. Yeah. I just don't see the Yankees making a move past those guys.
That could be the way to get in, though, if they beat those teams.
Yeah, if they beat those teams. But the way Toronto's playing, the way that Boston has woken up, because I was like, what are y'all doing, Red Sox? Like, you literally let the Yankees back in the door. They kicked the door open with that 13-game win streak. But without that 13-game win streak, you realize they're a 500 ball club. I mean, now, I know you can't take it away. I mean, it's part of the season, right?
No maxis.
But Garrett Cole can't carry the whole team. Aaron Judge or Mike Stanton can't, or I'm sorry, Giancarlo Stanton. Yeah, they can't carry the team. They have too many inconsistencies pitching wise. They have too many inconsistencies between Gary Sanchez and Gio. And I mean, they've got the talent. They just can't. They just are not consistent with their production. You would think the names they have in that lineup, they should be better than they are, plain and simple. They just have not done well with what they have. And so I think it's going to be Toronto and Boston. I would rather Boston come out of that game than Toronto, because if we beat the White Sox, which I think we will easily, I think Toronto will give Tampa a run for their money. And can you imagine the Astros playing the Blue Jays in the ALCS and George Springer going on the road in Minute Maid Park? I would rather play anybody.
I mean, the Red Sox, sorry.
Yeah, I would also rather play the Reds.
Yeah, I would probably agree that I like it the way it's already is with the 2 wild card spots. The Red Sox, I love their offense. They have boppers up and down their lineup. I thought they needed a starting pitcher at the deadline. They didn't do it, but they basically got one, I guess, with Chris Sale coming back. I guess he is the savior of that team. He's back. He's looking pretty good. He had an immaculate inning in like his second start, so I guess the dude is back. The Blue Jays, they might be they're arguably the most well-balanced team in the American League. I mean, they have a stack lineup. They were able to add pitching with a Jose Barrios. That's some nice. They even stole a Joaquin Soria from the D-backs, too. I haven't even checked in on his numbers. So the Blue Jays, what are you going to say, Eric?
They're the Astros door.
So they devious licked it?
Oh, wow. He went with a TikTok reference or something.
Yeah.
I don't even know what's going on now. Boomer vibes.
Yeah, we got to get you. Are you on TikTok, Brett? Or
no, but I know all about the devious lick. I had to foil a devious lick at school. Kid just confessed to me. Okay. It's funny.
Maybe I'm the boomer then. What is a DVS?
It's where kids are like videoing themselves taking soap from the restrooms, and at my daughter's school, somebody even took a toilet.
Oh,
toilet seat or toilet?
A toilet.
How do you take
that at your son's school too? I believe
at Creekside. Oh, sorry. Oops. Oh, whatever. Arizona don't know what we're talking about. It's
I don't think my D-backs listeners are going to track down your children, hopefully.
At Mesa Verde Junior High?
Yeah, so I guess, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with my For You page. I haven't seen the DVS. So like, maybe I got to get on Texas. So. Okay, maybe I got to get on the TikTok out there.
Come on, Millard, man. Who's the boomer now?
I'm feeling old. I'm feeling old, getting older every day out here. But I guess I also want to ask you, segueing off the wild card race. So which AL team then scares you the most? I know you guys are the Astros. You guys are fearless. You fear no one. You guys are just going to do whatever it takes to win, basically. But there has to be someone that you look at as a real challenger for the Astros not making it to the World Series.
I would have to say My heart says the White Sox, but I think the Astros can handle the White Sox. The team I'm scared about, and it's one player, it's the Blue Jays because of George Springer. Because he is Mr. October for a reason. We've seen it for years, and he is looking for revenge against his former team, the team that would not show him the money.
Yeah, and so I hate because, for the longest time it was the White Sox, the White Sox, the White Sox. We handled the White Sox at home, swept them, even their top pitchers. So White Sox, I'm not concerned about. The Rays only because they score a lot and they do a masterful job managing that bullpen and that starting rotation. And they've got guys like Brett Phillips, who's like this unsung hero all the time. Like, you don't expect him to do anything and he gets a walk-off, right? But I think because of the swag because the Blue Jays are what the Padres were supposed to be in the National League. Correct me if I'm wrong. The Blue Jays have got
Javier there.
Yes, I'm sorry. The Blue Jays are what everybody thought the Padres were going to be. And they have, Vlad Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette, Teoscar Hernandez, former Astro, Lourdes Gurriel. The reason why they signed Yuli was to get Lourdes. He didn't sign here. He signed with the Blue Jays. George Springer. Kevin Biggio, the son of Craig Biggio, Mr. Astro. So they are Houston Astros North. And I think it's not their pitching that scares me. It's the way that their bats are absolutely alive. It seems like day in and day out. So they've become the most feared team. For me, it was the White Sox forever, but I had to copy Eric because wise words right there.
Yeah, listen, all Dodgers and Padres shade is completely allowed on this podcast. We do it every day, so don't ever be afraid to let that go. And I think I would have to agree that it's probably the Blue Jays. I still love the White Sox. They were kind of my dark horse team last year. They kind of burnt me in the postseason. We'll see what Tony La Russa does. But I think they have a pretty deep rotation. I love their lineup. They got some really fun players too, Webb Moncada, Tim Anderson, and Jose Abreu. But
they've got guys that have come back too. So they have Robert that's come back. The guys that have been injured are back. So
we owe them for 2005. We got to get our
we should not ever let the White Sox beat us again. Oh, did you know this? Here's a little fan trivia. When the White Sox come to Houston, they have a bat boy that wears a White Sox uniform, and on the back of his jersey, his number is 05 to remind us of the 05 World Series.
Ah, that's pretty badass. That's some savagery there. I respect it. One last question for the Locked On Astros duo. This is the question everyone wanted to hear. Would winning a World Series validate this group, or will cheating always be a part of this mixture as long as Altuve is part of the core?
I think there will always be that little scandal, that little whisper, but I think it would. Not for Dodgers fans, not for Yankees fans. There will always be that. But I think them winning World Series without the suspicion. Now, if there's any type of whistling at the game or anything like that, there's always going to be, there's some type of cheating. But there's always going to be something. But just like I don't know the answer to that question because I'm not a Dodgers fan. And at this point, the players have moved on. For the most part, except for a few Dodgers players, the players have moved on. It's the fans who are just carrying this on, and a few of the beat writers because they still have a little grudge there. But yes, I would say that if they win the World Series this year without any hint of the cheating scandal, yes, it would alleviate some of it, but there will always be that talk.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And it's funny that you mentioned Jose Altuve. He's been the brunt of the boos, and he is the one that benefited from the cheating the least, if any at all. And then we had this suspicious fake Twitter account spread the whole buzzer conspiracy and why they ripped the shirt off Altuve when he crushed the Yankees' dreams at Minute Maid Park this year, once again, like he does every year in the postseason. So that's probably why the Yankees shouldn't want to make the postseason, because if you play us, we're going to destroy you, Yankees. And, Dodgers fans can always be secure in their 60-game championship. I'm fine with that. But I would like to see them win at 162. You know what? The Dodgers need to validate their title by winning a title in a full season. When they do that, then they can come on my block and talk about who's a valid champion. I'll just be straight up. the Astros will be validated. But like Eric said, there's some people's minds you're never going to change, and they're always going to they're going to go to their grave. The Astros are cheaters, and that's fine. We're okay with that. We're all about the H-Town versus everyone. So, but I think for the owner too, I think Jim Crane takes a lot of pride in this club, and I think Jim Crane wants a title because I think he wants to be able to puff his chest up a little bit and say, look, we did it. We can do it. Because let's not lie to ourselves. That 2017 team did not at all need any kind of scandal or cheating to help them. They could have won that fair and square without anything. They were that talented.
And the reason I bring it up, because a team like the Patriots, they've been caught cheating multiple times in their history, but we don't talk about it or bring it up much, is because they constantly keep winning. And if the Astros are able to bring up one or maybe even two World Series over the next few years, I think a lot of the cheating stuff will go in the past too. And listen, I'm pro Astros on this podcast. I literally don't care about the cheating scandal at all, because baseball and cheating are just synonymous with each other. It's no sport is known more for cheating than baseball. We've seen the crackdown this year when it comes to pitching and foreign substances. We've seen steroids. We've seen sign stealing. We've seen it all. So for me, it doesn't really make that big of a difference to me, because the Yankees and Red Sox, I think, were told to knock it off with sign stealing in the championship series as well, right before that World Series. So most of it, I don't even think is that big of a deal.
Carlos Rodon reported soreness and wasn't right after the third inning.
For the White Sox.
Oh, that's
wow.
Well, he's a big factor as to why they might be the scariest team in the American League. So we'll see. We'll see if Rondon will be there for the postseason. I mean, that's always scary. You never want to hear that kind of stuff. But as we're wrapping up here, the Lockdown listeners need to know, you said at the beginning of the pod, but remind them, because this will probably get split up into 2 episodes. Eric and Brett, where can the Locked On Diamondbacks listeners find you online?
All right, you can find me at Eric Talk Stros. You can find Brett at H-Town Wheelhouse. And you can find the show on YouTube. Go ahead and go subscribe to us at Locked On Astros. Subscribe, give us a big like and everything. And Brett, where else can they find you?
They can find us on, they can actually go to Stros411 on Instagram, on Twitter, and Facebook, where we're always positive, always Stros. So we got a big presence there. And again, like Instagram, you can find us. But hey, check us out. Stop in one of the shows, make a comment. We'll feature your comment on our show.
And we are on TikTok too. We do put our little nows on there. That's all
we haven't done any challenges yet, but that may happen.
I'm gonna get Brett to do some dancing pretty soon.
Oh, dude, when I was in high school, I could cut a rug. I'll tell you right now, MC Hammer had nothing on me.
Well, it sounds like you guys need to steal a toilet or something. I know we're talking about dancing. It sounds like you guys got bigger expectations.
I do that once a day.
I don't feel like going to jail. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's
because these kids are going to jail.
Yeah, I've never stolen a toilet, but I've definitely bombed a toilet once or twice in my life. So that's the Locked On. Yeah, that's the Locked On Astros right there. Go check them out. Go check out their stuff. Always a fun ending, fun time with them. And gentlemen, thanks for hopping on today. Stay safe out there in Texas, and hopefully we'll catch up again soon, maybe around the postseason.